Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa and Associates. For consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.
Hello, my name is Mary Campbell, legal assistant at the law firm of Figueroa and Associates, and your presenter with this week's immigration news. Biden proposes rule to quickly remove certain migrants during initial screening process at the border. On May 9, the Biden administration proposed a rule that would allow asylum officers to consider and impose certain restrictions or bars to the initial asylum screening process at the border. Currently, these bars are considered later in the asylum process at a full hearing before an immigration judge. Comments are being accepted until June 12, 2024. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services proposal aims to reduce the use of the U.S. government's resources on individuals who would otherwise be ineligible for asylum or withholding of removal. It would apply to asylum seekers subject to expedited removal, a fast-track deportation process where low-level immigration officers can summarily remove certain non-citizens without a hearing. If a non-citizen claims fear of returning to their home country, they must be provided an interview to determine whether they're potentially eligible for protection under U.S. law. U.S. imposes sanctions against Nicaragua over migrant exploitation. The Biden administration announced new sanctions and other restrictions on Nicaragua May 15, aiming to curb migration to the U.S. southern border and penalize the country for alleged human rights abuses and its close ties to Russia. Some of the actions against the country are being taken to address significant concern about the government of Nicaragua and its continued repression of the people of Nicaragua and their exploitation of migrants, a senior administration official told reporters. U.S. officials accused the leaders of Nicaragua's government, the husband and wife duo of President Daniel Ortega and Vice President Rosario Murillo, of profiting off of desperate and vulnerable migrants. Biden's new H-2A rule expands protections and increases oversight for migrant workers. On April 29, the Department of Labor published a new rule aimed at protecting workers on temporary H-2A visas and strengthening the agency's oversight of their employers. The rule is set to go into effect on June 28, with a 2-month subsequent grace period. The H-2A program allows migrant laborers to work in temporary or seasonal agricultural jobs in the United States for employers that are unable to find enough U.S.-based workers. The program has grown significantly in the past few years as the country goes through an extended labor shortage. Last year, the Office of Foreign Labor Certification certified nearly 380,000 jobs compared to just 79,000 in 2010. Unlike the H-2B program, which allows migrants to work temporarily in non-agricultural jobs, the H-2A program doesn't have a cap on the number of workers who may qualify. Meanwhile, in New York, volunteer social workers take to the subway to help migrant candy sellers. It's become a common scene on the New York City trains and subway platforms as more than 195,000 migrants have made their way through city care since last spring. Families and their children, offering chocolates, gum, and other candies to New Yorkers in transit across the city. Many of the migrants still lack work authorization because of long waits in the asylum process. They instead have turned to street vending, often without permits. There are about 10,000 people on waitlists for each kind of permit to make a living, despite the mounting challenges that come with it. An Ecuadorian migrant mother and her 2-year-old son spend their days selling candy on the streets and subways. A newly formed group of volunteer social workers is trying to reach families just like hers. Manhattan Council race heats up with entrance of refugee-turned-migrant advocate. Edafe Aporo said he knew he had to leave his native Nigeria in 2016, as people were pounding on the door of his home in Abuja threatening to kill him because of his sexual orientation. "Open the door. We know you are gay and we are going to kill you," he recalled in an interview. He said he was beaten in front of his neighbors and hospitalized for weeks. 8 years later, the 34-year-old refugee is running for the New York City Council in 2025, challenging incumbent councilmember Sean Abreu. "I am the example of what New York stands for, that somebody can come here and create a life for themselves," Okporo told Gothamist. In other news, U.S. announces initial student visa appointments for Indian students. As announced by the U.S. Consulate, Indian students can start scheduling U.S. student visa interviews in late May. This marks the first batch of appointments, with additional slots expected soon. The announcement is particularly significant for Indian students who prioritize the U.S. as a prime destination for international education. However, applicants should note the increasing trend in student visa rejections, often due to insufficient documentation, lack of preparation for the interview, or inability to demonstrate strong ties to their home country. Volunteers needed for credible fear interview preparation and CBP hotline. When someone crosses the border to seek asylum in the United States, they often first go through a credible fear interview (CFI). An asylum officer evaluates a person's fear of returning to their home country and decides whether they will be allowed to apply for asylum and other forms of protection. Because it determines access to the asylum process, the credible fear interview can have life or death consequences. The American Immigration Council needs help preparing individuals for these interviews. If you are interested in volunteering, please email pbalcazar@imnco.org. And finally, Adams' excellent swimmer's comment is racist and divisive, and he owes New Yorkers an apology. On Tuesday, May 14, NYC Mayor Eric Adams said in his weekly press briefing that asylum seekers are excellent swimmers and should become lifeguards in New York City. Murad Awade, President and CEO, New York Immigration Coalition. New Yorkers are looking to Mayor Eric Adams to unite our city, not foment more division. His comments on asylum seekers being excellent swimmers implies that because some immigrants had to swim or wade across water on their dangerous journeys to seek safety in the United States, that they would make good lifeguards. This comment is racist, and the mayor should not be making light of the perilous and often life-threatening journeys people are forced to make to escape violence and persecution. It's demeaning and dehumanizing. The mayor has made clear how much he hates the word police, but he wouldn't need to worry about that if he would simply stop making nonsensical or racist statements on a range of topics, including 9/11 and asylum seekers. Mayor Adams should start reining in some of the divisive and inappropriate language he uses and apologize to New Yorkers for this completely unwarranted and out-of-line comment. Thank you.
Our weekly immigration news roundup is brought to you by the law firm of Figueroa & Associates. For a consultation on any immigration or legal matter, please call 855-768-8845. That's 855-768-8845. For full stories and more immigration news, visit www.theimmigrantsjournal.com. That's www.theimmigrantsjournal.com.